Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and good morning to you all. Hope we are all doing well. So welcome for our today webinar on tips on how to write a good technical paper or journal. So our today's speaker will be Associate Professor Dr. Muhammad Kashif, who is currently contributed to 87 peer-reviewed scientific papers, publications, and pre-evaluated 2 PhD theses. So currently is working with one university in China. So we just welcome Associate Professor Dr. Muhammad Kashif to share with him his experience on how to write a good technical paper in the journal. So welcome, sir.
Assalamu alaikum. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, let me share my screen.
Okay, sure.
So can you share? Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see.
Okay, so everyone in the group can see the screen, right?
Yeah, I hope so. Whoever does not see will just highlight it.
Okay. Yeah, because as I was discussing with Dr. Hikmar that here we have a lot of restrictions, so many times we have to use VPN to do many things. So, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. First of all, I am thankful to the UTA HM governing body that have given me an opportunity to present on a very hot and interesting topic, especially for researchers and for the new researchers. Definitely in Malaysia, I know we have many good researchers because I have done my PhD from Malaysia under the supervision of Professor Uda Hashim, and he is a very well-known person in Malaysia, and he has a lot of publications, and I have learned a lot under his guidance. So I am not as good as him, but I will try how much I can present and how you people can understand. And also because I am in China, so I am presenting the presentation in my room, because for booking the room and other things, I don't know how to do that things, because until now I haven't teach any subject, and many things are in Chinese, and I don't have any student then that can guide me to do that things. So I am just starting my presentation. So the title of the presentation is Tips on How to Write a Good Technical Paper or Journal Paper. More specifically, we are mostly researchers, so we mostly go for the journal articles. So Dr. Hikma already have introduced me that I am Dr. Muhammad Kashif. I am working as a tenured associate professor in the School of Electrical Automation and Information Engineering, Tianjin University, China. And this is my email ID. Okay, so when we are writing a technical paper or journal paper, so first question arises, why we need the technical communication? So the importance of technical communication is that it directs the flow of scientific and technical information from the labs to the different stakeholders. Because when we are doing the work in the lab, so people don't know what we are doing inside the lab. So in order to know the rest of the community that is outside of our lab and in the world, so we have to go for technical communication. And it will be help in dissemination of new ideas, views, and suggestions in relevant technical fields at multiple levels. Okay, so definitely when we are working on the research, so we have to present some new ideas, we have some views, we have some suggestions. So we have to disseminate, or we have to separate it into different levels so that people can know what we are doing. And it will lead us to the unification between the activities of an individual. Maybe this person is working as an individual, or he is working in a team. So they have to lead the unification between them. And the last thing is that it will be a free exchange of information and ideas that promotes and maintains the technical awareness. Okay, so nowadays we are seeing that many journals, they are offering the APC. Uh, so in that one, readers can easily read the papers free of charges. But most of the universities, we already have the uh, uh, authentication from the different publication companies, so we can easily get the information from there. What is a technical communication? We can define the technical communication as the flow of technical and scientific information and perception between various members of scientific and professional community. And it includes all the methods, the means, medias, and channels we have used. And effective technical communication is a purposive symbolic communication which help in understanding of what, why, and how of the scientific, technical, and natural phenomena is going on. So these are the questions that we have to answer. So what is a technical article? So it is written composition treating scientific or a technical subject distinctly. And it is a systematic account of the results of some investigation, research, fieldwork, and some other activities, because we know people are working in the field of research. They are from linguistics, from business, uh, some are from industries as well. So we have to focus on all the participants and their activities, and it explore one area of interest and present an object analysis and interpretation of facts, findings, and suggestions and conclusions. What is the purpose of a technical writing? Definitely, when we are writing a technical article, so there will be some purpose or some ideas behind them. So the purpose of a technical article writing is to inform, to instruct, to propose, to recommend, and to persuade. So these are the purposes of technical article. Either we have to inform something, we have to instruct, or we have to propose the solution of a problem, or we can recommend how to solve this one. So in terms of types of articles, we have different article types that includes scientific articles and technical articles. So what all is scientific article about and what is technical article is about? The scientific article is theoretical in treatment of the subject. It is an attempt to bring out the research from the laboratory to the world. Okay, and the language may be technical, but the main important thing is that it to be made in simple words so that the other persons can understand as well. If we will use too much technical words, so maybe the persons that are not related to our field, maybe they will not understand what we have written in our article or what we want to define. The technical articles, they are less theoretical in treatment of subject. They are more concentrating on the practical aspect of the society, and they will relate the idea that result from a research that can be used to improve the life and society. And the third thing is the research paper, that is the most important for us as a faculty member or as a researcher. So it is a highly scientific kind of treatment. Scientific. It is a highly specific kind of writing, generally addressed to a small body of people directly concerned with the object of that study. So research paper is they have a very limited audience, because for suppose if someone is working on the graphene oxide or some other metal oxide, so that will that is only suitable for that community. So it is very specific, and it cannot be published in newspapers. Research paper only can be published in journals. So a good research paper should have a clear statement of the problem that paper is addressing. So that is the most important thing, that which problem you want to solve in that paper, and then you have to provide the solutions and what results you have achieved. And definitely if someone have done that result, so you have to compare your data with the published results, that what is the main enhancement or the new things that you have done, and it was not mentioned in the not done in the previous research. Okay, so it describes clearly what has been done before on the problem and what is new. And the last important thing is the goal of a paper is to describe novel technical results. So what will be the future of our technical articles? Or the scientific articles, they will follow the consistent format and contain same major sections. Names may vary. We have to use technical vocabulary, specialized terminology, and graphic aids are used. With the passage of time, if we go to the earlier papers back in 1980s, 1990s, let's say, or 2000, start of 2000 as well. So we are not using the graphical abstract. So nowadays we are seeing that each and every journal, they are focusing on graphical abstract as well, because with the help of graphical abstract, the reviewer and the editor, they will get an idea what your paper is about, and objective and factual and general. So there is two type of article, one is scientific and one is the general literary articles. So for the general literary articles, they don't have to follow any format. It's a simple words are used, and the discussion do not have a scientific basis, and it cannot be biased. So we have to be think that our paper shouldn't be biased for the general literary articles. So the attitude of objectivity, impartiality, and directness, that is must, and it should be impartial, unemotional, and objective. The attention of the writer is concentrated on the facts only, and you have to use the scientific and technical vocabulary for the technical communication. Okay, so now we are moving to the next part, that when we are writing an article, so how we have to organize our article, what are the main sections in our articles, and what things we have to consider when we are writing an article, and what things we don't have to consider. So the overall paper organization, because for the new researcher, it will be new, but I know in Malaysia, you have a trend that from the bachelor's degree, students are start writing articles. So definitely they know what things, all the headings an article is composed of. So first and most important thing is the title of the article. Then it will follow by abstract, introduction, literature review, methodology, what method you have used, results, discussion, and conclusion. So for today's slides, we will cover until the methodology side, because for results, discussion, and conclusion, it is a very common thing, and then we know what we have done in our lab, so we can define and we can write by ourselves. So the four most important and problem facing things are the abstract introduction and the literature review methodology. Also, sometimes we didn't face so many problems. So first thing is the title. So what are the characteristics of a good title? How we can define that our title is good or our title is bad? So a good paper title says precisely what our paper is about, and the title shouldn't be too long. If it will be too long, then definitely it will be not catchy, and maybe the editor may directly reject our article, even passing through before the reviewer. And also, it doesn't have multiple sub clauses, so means that we cannot use any formula or any numbering or any symbol in the title as well. So how to identify a good and a bad title? So I am giving you few examples of good and bad titles, and I will ask you that can you identify that which title is a good title and which one is a bad title? So first one is the impact of information technology on agricultural commodity auctions in Malaysia. Second title is a review of component-based software development. And the third one is mobilizing informational social capital in cyberspace, online social networks, and knowledge sharing. So can anybody tell me that which title is the good title and which one is the bad title? You can write your answer in the chat box. So we can give the number impact of information technology as a title 1, review title 2, and mobilizing informational security title 3. So which one is a good title and which one is a bad title? Anybody want to answer? All right. Okay. All right. Okay, so I have get some answers. So definitely the answers are right. So we have to see the reason why the title 1 is a good title. Definitely title 2 is also a good title, and title 3 is a bad title. So so the good titles are impact of information technology on agriculture commodity auction in Malaysia. So why it is a good title? Because it tells the readers precisely what the paper is about. And the second one is review of component-based software development. And this one is also a good title because it is a short and it's to the point. The third one is the bad title because it is too long and we don't know what the author want to say in that title. So it is not clear what will be in the paper. Multiple possibilities are presented in the title. So now we have to rewrite. So if we rewrite, so one of the possibility will be the online social networks and knowledge sharing. So this one is specific and to the point. So when we are writing the title, so we have to be focused on these points. Otherwise, maybe we may lose the concentration of the editor or the reviewer. Okay, so what are the problems we face? So we have to generate paper titles from the abstract. So first thing, we have to count number of words. Definitely when we are writing a research article. So if we go to the author guidelines, so every journal, they have their specific guidelines and they have mentioned how many number of words you have to use in the abstract. So mostly we have to go to 300 to 500 words. If you will use more than 300 to 500 words, then definitely your paper will be directly rejected. So most important thing is that whenever you are writing an article, you have to read the author guidelines first, and then on the basis of that guidelines, you have to start writing your abstract and titles. Well, because main thing is the abstract. Because for the abstract papers, many journals they have the limitation of the words. So if you will exceed the limitation, then definitely you will face the problem. And if you are going for the free of charge journals, definitely sometimes some journal takes very long time. Some journals take up to 1 year as well. So, and we don't know what is the problem. So when we have written our article and we have submitted our article and we have wait for a long time, and at the end we will just get up the result that our abstract was too long. So better to waste the time. We have to be careful before we writing the paper. So if we are writing the abstract, we have to count the number of words. Less is better, and number of clauses also less is better. And does title accurately describe paper? Is title specific? So these are the things that we have to be considered. So this is for the title. Now we have to move to the another important point of our article, and that one is how to write an abstract, because that one is the most important part when a reviewer or the reader will read your paper and they will decide to cite your paper or not. So when we are writing the abstract, so we have to know that what is the purpose of the abstract and what should be in an abstract, what are the common problems, and we have to be differentiate between abstract and introduction. And then we have some examples of again the good abstract and the poor abstract or bad abstracts. So first thing, what is the purpose of abstract? Everyone want that their paper should be accepted, because when we are doing our experimental work, we have consumed a lot of time in the lab, and then after that we have taken a lot of time for writing the paper. So as a new researcher, they have the thought that when they will submit, so they will get the acceptance, but many factors are dependent on the acceptance of the paper. So the first thing is the abstract. So when a reviewer reads your paper, they form an image of what is about from the title and from the abstract. Okay, these are the two important things, and these are the two short points that can make the mind of the reviewer either to accept or to reject your article. The reviewers uses this impression to interpret the rest of the information in the paper. If the abstract is disorganized or incomplete, this will leave reviewer with initial impression of paper that may be hard to change. Okay, so if your abstract is disorganized, then definitely most of the time the reviewers will not go into the details of your article, what you have written inside, because from the first impression they already know that you cannot write a proper abstract. So how you can write the rest of the things inside the article? And also the purpose of the abstract, that when we write the article and the article is already published, so definitely people have to read our article and have to be cited by others. So researchers are busy people. Definitely. So they don't read entire paper, only the abstract. If they will find that the abstract is good and they are getting some information that will be helpful for their work and for their article, so definitely they will cite your article. So a good abstract will help a busy researcher to skim your paper on and possibly get you cited. Many search programs do a keyword in context search so that words in abstract help your paper to be found. So you have to use very specific keywords as well when you are using the abstract as well. So from that abstract, they can take some keywords and find the in the search engine, they can find the information of your articles as well. So article citation is also very important because I know many faculty members, all are the faculty members, they are attending this presentation. So nowadays, many things are dependent on our citation, H index, and all these things. So if no one will cite our article, so we don't have a citation and we don't have H index. And in future, definitely it will create a problem when we will apply for the promotion and sometime for the grants as well. They will consider that things. And it will help readers to build a good picture of what is in your paper. And also for the individuals, maybe the young researchers, they are doing the research. It is useful for individuals reviewing papers they have read, useful for individuals searching for a particular piece of evidence, help with the reading of a complex paper. Okay, so these all are the purposes of the abstract that new researcher should know. Okay, so what things we should cover in the abstract? What should be in abstract? An abstract should briefly focus or cover all these points. The first one, establish the topic of the research. Means your research is about what you want to do in this work. State the research problem or main objective of the paper. Indicate the method used and present the main research finding that you already have conducted the experiment, and for suppose you have do the electrical characterization and you have the IV characteristic shows this and this values, and present the paper's conclusion. Okay, so these are the basic points that an abstract should contain. If you have missed any of the points, so it will give a wrong or bad impression on the reviewer. So now I'm giving an example of abstract. It is a long abstract. So in that abstract, we will identify all these 5 points, which is the topic of the research, what is the research problem or main objective, by considering that specific abstract. Okay, so this is the abstract. The long-term performance of various systems was determined, and the economic aspects of solar hot water production were investigated in this work. So I'm not going for the whole abstract. So from this abstract, we will try to find out the topic of the research, research problem, indicate the method used, main research finding, and the paper conclusion. Okay, so first thing is the topic of the research. So the topic of the research, we can find out the long-term performance of various systems was determined, and the economic aspects of solar hot water production were investigated in this work. Now, objective. What is the objective? The economic aspects of solar hot water production were investigated in this work. And then we have to go for the next one, that what are the methods used. So they have used the method of effect of the collector inclination angle, collector area, and storage volume was examined for all systems and various climatic conditions, and their payback period was calculate it. Okay, so these are the methodology they have used. And what are the main research findings? So it was found that the collector inclination angle doesn't have a significant effect on system performance. Large collector areas have a diminishing effect on the system's overall efficiency. The increase in storage volume has a detrimental effect for small daily load volumes, but a beneficial one when there is a large daily consumption and so on. Okay, and at the end, we have to find or we have to write the conclusion. What is the conclusion of this article? So we can conclude that overall the systems are oversized and are economically suitable for large daily hot water load volumes. Okay, so I think this one is clear from this one that how we have to write an abstract, and then what are the main points that we have to consider when we are writing an abstract. So the common problems that we have faced when we are writing the problem: too long, too much detail, sometimes too short. Too short abstract is also not considerable. So we have to be careful that our abstract shouldn't be too short and shouldn't be too long. And it will fail to include important information such as what is the objective of the research and what methodology you have used in this one. Okay, so next thing is what is the difference between an abstract and introduction? So we have to know when we are writing the article, so we have to know the difference between the abstract and the introduction. The main purpose of abstract is to summarize the paper. Abstract should be short, should only contain summary information. While the introduction, the main purpose of introduction is to present context or background for paper. Introductions are longer, often contain guides to reading paper. So this is the difference between the abstract and introduction. So now we will move to the next point, that we have to consider the good abstract example and the example of a bad abstract. So this is the example of a good abstract, that we investigate the use of auditory feedback in pen gesture interfaces in a series of informal and formal experiments. Initial iterative exploration showed that gaining performance on learning advantage with auditory feedback was possible using absolute cues and state feedback. And the rules may serve as a foundation for further research and development in pen gesture interfaces with auditory feedback, and with the conclusion. So this one is the example of a poor abstract. They have mentioned the environment or visual representation of people and group where system. Environment normally display only a few type of awareness information such as this and that. To investigate this issue, we tested people's ability to remember and interpret our results, providing strong evidence for the feasibility of this representation. Initial result from a second study in which information rich were implemented. So from this abstract, we wouldn't be able to find out anything what they want to say, what is the topic of the paper. So the initial sentence say nothing about what the paper is about. And what are the conclusion of this research? So our results provide strong evidence and this and that. So what they have got from this, what are the conclusions? So these are the problems. And so when we are writing the abstract, so we have to be very careful. We have to consider all the relevant information, so that our abstract will be a catchy and will convert the mind of the reviewer to go through in our paper. Okay, so after covering the title and the abstract. The next uh, important part is the introduction, because this is also one of the difficult part for the new researchers or new faculty members as well. Like for my case, I'm telling you, I have done my bachelor's and master's from Pakistan, and it was all course based. So when I have moved to Malaysia, I have never seen a research article when I was in Pakistan. So I was reading an article, and I have one friend from Bangladesh, Dr. Yaqub Nohi is in USA. So I have asked him why they have writing the number one, two, and three in the introduction part. So they say, oh, this one is taken from other papers. So that's why they have put it here. So from that time, I have known that things. So, but for Malaysia, I already told you that in Malaysia we have a different culture. From the bachelors, you already know all these things. So for the introduction part, also we have to see that what things introduction have, or what is the purpose of the introduction, what are the common problems we have faced when we are writing an abstract, and how we can organize the introduction. And again, the example of a good introduction, example of a bad introduction, and identify the key element of an introduction, and fixing poor introduction. So first thing is, what is the purpose of the introduction? So the purpose of the introduction is to situate the research in its research field, and to document why the research being presented is important. So why you want to present your work, that one you have to be considered in the introduction. Most of the time this one is in the last paragraph of the introduction part or the literature review part. And to state the research problem the paper will solve, and to present the steps that will be taken to solve the problem. So this is the purpose of the introduction. So why introductions are important? So we have to know that introduction creates a cognitive structure from the reader, which helps this person understand the research being presented. From the point of reviewer, because I'm also reviewing the papers from many journals as well. So for most of the reviewer case, we are not usually go too much details in the introduction, but definitely that is the part for the reviewer. But when someone want to do the research as a researcher, so definitely he will go through the introduction part as well, because for the new researcher that introduction part is very important, because from that introduction part he will know that what other researchers have done earlier and what you want to do in your article. Definitely in the methods and results you will only present what you have done and how you get the things, but for the introduction part will give an idea to the new researcher or to the readers or what you want to do. So that one is very important. uh, if you are looking for the view of the reader or the researcher. The cognitive structure is then used to store each new atom of information presented in the paper. Introduction let the reader know if the work is present is relevant, what they are looking for. The point I have told you that definitely when someone want to do the research, same like you, so they will find that point that it is relevant to his work or no. If not, definitely he will not go inside of your article. What introduction contains? So It will have the background for the research and the rationale for conducting the research, a description of the problem being solved, the researcher will take to solve the problem. So setting the context of for the research or background of the research. So this one is an example of setting the context of the research. Design is a fundamental part of the product development process. Conceptually, design is viewed as a structured, multi-phase, iterative process which transforms a need into a product. Because modern technology is complex, it is unusual for an individual to tackle a complex product design alone. Often, a small team is gathered at the initial stage of the design process. So, what are the rationale for the research? However, group work often introduces problems of organization, coordination, and communication. Communication inadequacies existing among team members is a major impediment to the orderly and effective progression of the design product process, especially when they are not meeting face to face. So this is the rationale of for the research. Uh, when I was working in Malaysia, I have seen that as well. I am not sure the trend what is going on UTHM, but when I was in Unimas, I have seen because I was from the engineering background, but I was working on the material side, uh, and we don't have the coordination between other departments because nowadays the research is a multidisciplinary. So we cannot say that engineering people cannot do the works on materials. Like in China, I am in School of Electrical Automation and Information Engineering, but still I am working on the material side, and I have my own lab, and they have given me around 72,000 USD to build up a lab. So I am in process of building that lab. Unfortunately, because of the COVID duration, I wouldn't be able to set up the whole lab. Now I'm doing that one. So I have seen some problems that the engineering people are so possessive, and chemistry people are so possessive to communicate with each other. So when I was there, we have tried to do some combined research work between the chemistry and the engineering field, because the chemistry persons, they have the expertise on how to synthesize the materials, but they don't know how to characterize the things or what or the how to use for the application. So for that context, they have to come with the engineering person. So we have to create some strong groups that is a combination of the different fields. Like in the introduction, Dr. Hikma have told you that I have 85 publication and this and that. From that 85 publication, I have only 15 publication as a first author. But when I was in Malaysia, I have tried a lot to create a group, and by the grace of Almighty Allah, I was able to do, and I have a very big group, and the people are from different countries as well. So I will suggest you people as well, try to be go out of the cage, try to find the people from different faculties, different universities, different parts of the world, so that you can communicate with them, and you will learn and they will learn from you as well. So giving a description of the problem to be solved. So the highlighted part shows that although these tools are extremely useful, we believe that the management of multiple input remains a significant issue. So this is another abstract, and in that one, they have mentioned the problem, what problem they will solve, and what was the issue in the previous research. And then you have to lay out the research steps that will be taken. So to understand the group idea management behavior, we studied videotapes of drawing space activities collected by various researchers and reviewed findings on peer research in group design studies, group communication, engineering design studies, and the findings from these studies provided valuable insight to share drawing activities. This insight allowed us to define requirements for shared drawing to support the shared drawing activities. Okay, so they have used the Cave Draw and some other software to for their work. So what an introduction may contain. First thing is the scope of the problem, what the researcher will not address, the limitation of the research, and the method, models, approaches that will be taken in the research. Sometime we call, sometime the if we are doing some theoretical work, so we are doing a lot of assumptions as well. So that will be based on the assumptions. Defining the scope of the problem. So first thing is how the scope of the problem. Our approach differs in that our goal is to help users navigate to not detect, recognize error. This shift in focus is motivated by following reason. So the reason is data confirming that the error detection and navigation can consume as much as 1/3 of the time expected user spent creating. So this is the scope, defining the scope of the problem. So we have to go for the next one, the limitation of the research. What are the limitations? So from this one, we can see that as such, this work needs to separate out the effects of cultural time perception from the effects of other variables, such as time zone differences and general cultural activities. So these are the limitations that they have faced or they are facing while conducting their research. Listing the method, models, and approaches. Our methodological approach combines requirement-driven iterative design with quantitative and qualitative evaluation of working prototypes. The structure of this article mirrors our method. And in section 2, they have summarized field studies showing the importance of social reminding and social data mining that shows the lack of support current communication application provide for this task and drives design requirements to support them. Okay, so at the end, we have to see what are the common problems we have faced with the introduction. Too much detail. So introduction should never be longer than 1/10 of the research work. So whenever you are writing the introduction, you have to consider this point, because if you will go for too long introduction, then definitely it will create a problem as well for the reader, because if your introduction contains 6 to 7 pages for suppose, so he will be exhausted by reading these 10 to 15 pages. So it's better to you have to limit your introduction to 3 to 4 pages with more latest data, more relevant data that will gain the attention of the reader or the researcher. And too much repetition, you don't have to use a word so many times, because we have seen many times that the repetition of word is going on in introduction. So we have to avoid that. And there will be no clear definition of the problem, that what the researcher want to do in this article or what he want to show or what he want to present. And sometimes it's a poor organization of the article, because I have seen many articles that are not from some good journals, but they have start writing the article, and for the introduction, the references, the first reference, the number first reference, they have given 11, and then 13, 15, 19, there is no organization of the citation. So your paper should be well organized. If it is not well organized, definitely it will not give a good impact on the reviewer as well as for the reader. So when we are reviewing the paper, definitely we will check this thing as well. Uh, Either the citations are well organized or not. That is most important part or point that most of the time the reviewers look into as well. So how to organize introductions? We have to set the context, we have to define the research problem, and we have to propose a solution. So by setting the context, we have to consider the following points. The centrality, why the field is important. The work we are conducting, why it is important. Or we have to move from general to specific, and we have to review the relevant items in the previous research. So this is one example. That one is showing the centrality, the first point of setting the context. Minimum safe low temperature above freezing and humidity control are the most important tools for extending shelf life in vegetables. So what is the centrality? The most important tool indicate that two factors are crucial. So without this, we cannot carry out our research. And then we have to move from central to specific. Okay, so for example, in recent years, there has been an increased awareness of the potential impact of pollutants such as heavy metals. Moreover, the traditional methods for treating aqueous streams containing metal contaminants are expensive and can have inadequate facilities. So we can see that what how it is moving from central to specific by considering the this example. So the first sentence, impact of heavy metals. So we can see the heavy metals. It is too general. Okay, the second sentence, expense and shortcoming of methods of removing heavy metals. So that one is less general. And then the third sentence, expense and shortcoming of methods of removing heavy metals in developing countries. Now, in this point, they are more specific. Now they are mentioning that it relates to the developing countries, not the whole world. So it is more specific. Then the fourth sentence, the alternative technologies to overcome expensive and shortcoming of methods of removing heavy metals is also more specific. And then the biological materials as an example of alternative technological to overcome the expense and shortcoming of methods of removing heavy metals. So now, previously they are saying the heavy metals and this and that. Now they are mentioning that biological materials. So now it is very expensive that the materials, the heavy materials we are discussing is related to the biological materials. So then another one is the reviewing relevant items. So this is the example, and then from here we have to find out same points. Numerous studies on the utilization of plant proteins as a partial or complete replacement for fish meal in diet has been conducted using various freshwater and marine fishes. So this one is the third point of setting the context. They are reviewing the relevant item in the previous research. So they have taken that point in from the previous literature and they are citing in their paper. So next point is to define the research problem. In order to define the research problem, again, we have to consider the few points. There are 4 points by indicating a research gap. What is the gap of between your research and the research they have already taken? By raising the research questions, what, why, by indicating that the work is part of previously defined line of inquiry. Okay, sometimes we are continuing our research. For suppose we have done a part of our research and we have published, and then we are continuing the research, and that then we want to uh, publish that one as well. So we have to indicate that as well by making a counter claim. Definitely, when we are doing the research, sometimes we are agree with the researcher and sometimes we are not agree with what we have published. So by making a counterclaim disagreeing what has already been published. So from again we are considering some examples to find these 4 points. The first point is the research gap. So finding example 1 is the indicating a research gap. So numerous studies on the utilization of plant proteins as a partial this and that. And the research gap is that, however, very little is known about the feasibility of using soybean meal as a dietary protein source in practical field for yellow toll stearelia coincerdata. So this one, they are in the introduction part, they are mentioning that what is the research gap, and they will focus on that one. And the question they are raising, the question we address here is how technological change occurs when it is the overall system that needs to be changed. In particular, how can we bring and sustain a technological transition away from hydrocarbon-based technology? So they are asking or they are raising a question how we run away from these things. Okay, so now here the previous work is already done by the same group, and then they want to do or extend the previous research either by this group or by some other group. So here they have mentioned that in this paper we present a gas planning model that fulfills some of the specification established in this and that. So this is another example, and in that one they are doing a counter claim. So in the counterclaim, this is the paragraph, and we just go to the thing in the counterclaim what they are claiming. So although impressive, this list of value context suggests that determining the value of distributed generation requires a team of experts assembled from each department within the utility. This paper describes a simplified evaluation process based on the observation that distributed generation is of value because it reduces variable cost of or differs capacity information. Okay, then the next thing is we have to propose a solution. We already see the context, we already have defined the research problem. Now we have to propose the solution, how we will solve that problem. So by solving that problem, we have to outline the purpose of the work, and we have to describe the present research and methods that can be applied, principal finding and result, and indicating the structure of the research. So this is the example outlining the purpose of the work. This work aims to establish the extent of interaction of alginate with calcium and aluminium ions with respect to the influence of algyl exude have on the removal of humic substances by aluminium coagulation during drinking water treatment. So this one is the purpose or of the work. And describing the present research, this paper examined the use of peat for the removal of two metals. So what they will do in this one, copper and nickel from both, so and so on. And the principle, describing the principal finding, different of method of misfed mixer, gate mixer, drain mixer, and resistive mixer were investigated in this work, and their result proved that good conversion characteristics could be achieved. So from their research, they have found this, and these are the principal findings. So these should be mentioned in the introduction part, because if you will neglect these things in your introduction, so it will not give a good impact on the reader as well as on the reviewer. And integrating the structure of the research, proposing a solution by indicating directions for further research or by stating the expected benefits of the current research, and directions for further research. This paper takes the first step in this direction by laying out the rationale for incorporating feedback and feed-forward mechanism in decision support for dynamic tasks such as software project management. So what will be the benefit of the current research? Definitely, it will have give some benefits to the community. So the paper further suggests a multidisciplinary management approach to affect the favorable outcome for the whole fishing community. So when we are doing the introduction, again, we have to find out the problems in the introduction part. So that one will contain the context of the problem address, how we have to find that one, rationale of the research, problem statement, the steps that will be taken to solve the problem, what are the limitations and what are the assumptions. So here we are able to finish the part of the introduction, and now we will move to the next and the last heading of our today's research, and that one is the literature review. So why we have to write a literature review, why it is important. So we have to see all this in the upcoming slides. So why write a literature review? What are the common mistakes in literature reviews? A question that literature review should answer, and again the example of a good literature review and example of a poor literature review, and then at the end uh, we have a few frequently asked questions and answers, and then I will finish my presentation, and then if the room will be open for the floor to ask the questions if they have any question from this presentation. So why the literature review have to be written? It is to evaluate the previous work that has been done in your paper research area. And when you are doing the literature review, so you have to be focused on your area and the papers that are related to that area. So don't have to cite other papers as well, because sometime I don't know this is a good thing or not nowadays. Sometimes many reviewers, they also want to increase their citation, and they have asked to the authors to include their papers, and sometimes that papers are not related to the research, but the researchers, they are scared that if they will not include that that references in his or her article, maybe the paper get rejected. So by untouchy heart, they have to put it in the article, but that was not related to their work. And it shows the relationship between different existing work to relationship between existing work and your work. Okay, and you have to set up the context of your research. So common mistakes in literature review. So the literature review become a summary of existing literature. So you don't have to build a relationship. When we are writing the literature review, we have to build a relationship between each paragraph. So we cannot arrange it poorly. So it will give a wrong, bad impression. So no reasons are giving for including a citation. That is the point. An article is cited, but its content and reason for being cited are not given. Review is exhaustive, citing both bad and good work with no distinction being made. Okay, sometimes uh, the new researchers, they don't have the training, and sometimes they have put references from very poor journals. They are either not in Scopus, or sometimes they are on Google Scholar, but we know the quality of the paper that are on Google Scholar. So they just put it all that, and they don't have the idea, so it will create wrong impression. Review has too many general references, and review has too few specific references. So when you are going for the literature review, don't go for last 2 points. If you will put few references, yeah, for research article, for the article, definitely we have some subdivisions as well, like for communication and for other things. So for that one, you can use very specific or few references. But when you are writing a journal article and full article, so you have to consider uh, most of the many references, but not too many and not too less. If too less, it will give a wrong impression, and if too many, it will bore the reviewer and the reader as well. And don't go for so many old references until and unless it is very rare that, for suppose you are doing a thing that people have done in 1990s, and after that no one have worked on that one. So in that case you can put the that reference. But we know many journal policies nowadays, they will consider the latest literature review, mostly they will consider from 5 to 10 years. So and there is some uh, quota as well, or some percentage as well, so that how many percent of the references should be new and how many should be the old one. So question, literature review answer. What do we already know in the immediate area concerned? What are the characteristics of the key concept or the main factor of variable? And what are the relationship between these concept, factors or variables? What are the existing theories? What are the inconsistencies or other shortcomings in our knowledge or understanding? What views need to be further tested? What evidence is lacking, inconclusive, contradictory, or too limited? Why study further the research problem? What contribution can be present study be expected to make, and what research design or method seems unsatisfactory? So these are the questions that a good literature review should answer. So for example, this is a example of a pure literature review. Until recently, many researchers have shown interest in the field of collision, this and that. Their findings and suggestions are reviewed here. So in that one, they are not citing any papers, and we don't know who have done this work, and they want to mention to whom. Again, this one is the example of a poor literature review. And this one is another example of a pure literature review, because they are not focusing on the questions or the context that we have considered in our first slide of the literature review. So these are the few examples of the poor literature review. Why the previous poor literature review is considered as a poor review? So because they are only summarizing the prior research, it doesn't show the relationship between each of the piece of research cited. It doesn't show the relationship between prior research and the current research being done. It is simply a chronological organization of the previous work. So these are the main uh, flaws or shortcomings that the previous three examples have. So this is the example of a good literature review on the optimal container size in this. So automated storage and retrieval system are being introduced. So see, they are giving the proper references and they are considering all research in the area has followed several avenues. So they are considering early work and this and that. So they are comparing and showing all the possibilities that have to be done. So these are the examples of a good literature review. And then, as I have told you in the last paragraph of the introduction, we have to mention this thing. So in this paper, we present an analytical framework for approximating. So these are the good examples. So why these are a good examples? So because the writers have grouped similar information, right? And shown the relationship between the work of different researchers and showing the what are the similarities and the differences, the general results reflecting the stochastic nature of the flow of the goods, and indicate the position of the work in the research area history, move from a general discussion of a research to more specific area. So suggestions for writing a literature review: collect your references, take note of key points in article or book that may be useful or relevant, put references in an appropriate format, write a research argument for your work, and cut and paste references in their appropriate places in the research argument, then write a review. So here we have finished our slides. So now we are going to the few questions and answers that the students or the researchers have, and after that you can ask the questions if you have any. So first question is that do I have to cite all the relevant literature? There's too much. So when we are writing the paper and we are trying to search the data, so we are facing the problem that nowadays many people are working in the same area. So do we have to cite all? Because if we want to cite all, it it will take a lot of time and we will get so many references. So no, you only need to be exhaustive on that literature which is specific to your research problem. More general literature should be used to set the context of the research and need not to be exhaustive. Okay. What if I disagree with the research in an article? So if you are doing the same research and you are not agreeing with the research, so what you have to do? If the article is relevant to your research, you should write your disagreement and say why you are pursuing a different approach. What if a reviewer tells me to add a reference that I think is irrelevant? Okay, so that is the point that I have mentioned you earlier. So for the journal paper, you can disagree with the reviewer in your letter to the editor as long as you document why you disagree. But as I told you that the new researchers, therefore, they are too much scared and they want to publish the article. So usually they don't go for that one and they just directly cite the article that the reviewer have passed without checking the things. But the researchers, they have spent a lot of time and they have the experience, so definitely they will write a letter to the editor. And once you will write the letter to the editor, definitely he will consider that thing, and he will force to the reviewer as well. Don't force the author to put the irrelevant um citation, because when we are writing the articles, we always have to we connect with the editor as well. Like for my case, when I submit the paper, so after 3 weeks, I always we keep pushing the editor regarding the status of my article. So if you will say that you are while submitting the article, and maybe sometime it will take very long time. So sometime you have to knock the editor as well. What if a reviewer tell me so for the journal paper, no. For the conference paper, it is often prudent to include the side, probably the reviewer's paper. So for the conference paper, maybe you can do that one. So I see people cite statics books and other common references. Do I need to do that? If you are using unusual method, yes. If you are using methods common to your field, then no. You can assume that your readers will have this common background. So what format should I use for my reference section? So for this one, definitely you have to use the format that is recommended by the journal or by the conference you are writing your paper for. And for the journal, definitely I have told you, you have to read the author guideline. In that guideline, they have mentioned each and everything regarding references, headings, tables, uh, figures, each and all things. Can I use web page as a reference? Yes, but it is not recommended if you can't find other sources. Sometimes web pages are not trusted, and web pages are not archival and therefore may disappear even before your research is published. So these are the some resources from where I have taken these slides, because as a researcher, we always have to take care of that thing. Whenever we are taking the things from some other sources, we have to cite the things. Okay, so thank you for your patient sharing. So now we can have a question and answer session. If you have any question, you can ask. I will try my best to answer that question.
Okay, I see. It looked like so everything was very clear. So maybe not question. Is that true? Everything was clear, right? Okay, so maybe we just wait maybe a few seconds. So if no questions, we assume that everything was kept clearly and well understood.
Dr. Hikmah, can we have a photo session after the Q&A?
Yes, so
sure. Everyone can open their camera so that we can have a picture together.
Yeah, true. Yeah, but Prof, me, I have one question here, but just for clarification. This one regarding the introduction. It said normally introduction is advised to have like to be 1/10 of the whole paper length. So this to say if my paper is 10 pages maybe, so maximum I should have 1 page for introduction or can be less. So this is my question, just to be clarified in this. Yes, Prof.
So, okay. So
Yeah.
for you are giving an example that for suppose you have a paper that contains 10 pages and you want to write the introduction for 1 page or less. So I think it is not recommended. If you have 10 pages, so maximum you can go to 2 pages or 2.5 page, because if you go for the half-page introduction, so I don't think so you will cover all the main researchers data that they have done in your field. Sometimes you can see the scientific articles that were published in high impact factors like 60 or 70. You can see their article only contains only 2 pages. So in that 2 pages, they are just writing the introduction, they're experimental. So it depends. But like for us, we are just the usual researchers. So for us, I think 1 or 2 pages is more than enough.
Okay, so thank you very much for the clarification. Okay, so if there is no further questions, maybe we just on our cameras for the photo, please. Yeah, I see someone raising up the hand. Maybe it's a question. Yeah. Yes. Salisu Ishakum. So anything? So the mic is for you.
Good morning, Prof. Hello.
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 Yeah, good morning.
It is a nice presentations. I really appreciate with your talk, sir.
Thank you.
So my question is that I just came to DHM just 2 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm writing a proposal.
Mm-hmm.
So my question is that how can I transform my proposal into a paper?
So you are writing which kind of proposal? It is related to some grants, or because you have to mention the type of the proposal first?
Yeah, it is experimental work.
Okay, so because if it is an experimental work, so do you have some already you have received some results or not?
No, I don't have results now.
Yeah, so if you don't have the results, so how you can convert it into the paper? You can go for the review paper. If you have a proposal, so you can write for the review paper, but you cannot go for the research article, because for that one, definitely you need the results. That is the most important thing. If you don't have any result, so how you will be able to publish?
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Welcome.
Anyone has a question? Please feel free to ask questions.
Yeah, so the questions, because I already have spent 9 years in Malaysia, so I want to hear the voice of Malaysian people as well. I'm missing Malaysia a lot. I have spent a very good time in Malaysia, but unfortunately, I have to move here. So
Yeah. I think maybe there's no more questions. Maybe.
Okay, yeah, if they have any questions, so I already have mentioned my email ID. They can communicate. Also, if they need any help regarding the article writing, we can concentrate as well.
Yes, yes. So now please, we just on our camera now for the photo.
Professor, I want to ask one question that anyone knows the Professor Arif from the physics department? He's also, I think, is in UTHM.
On my case, I don't know him.
Yeah.
Because they are different.
Okay, I will count to 3. 3, 2, 1, smile.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Yes, thank you very much. Okay. So maybe now we reach to the end of this presentation. So we thank everyone to be present on this very interesting presentation. So we hope this one will help us to improve our paper writing and research, inshallah. So thank you very much, and assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam. Thank you, Dr. Kashif, for the great presentation.
You're welcome. Inshallah, we will be in contact in future as well.
Inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Wa alaikum salam wa barakatuh.